Yeah. Yeah, that's not supposed to do that.
For this job, you're going to need an extension, an 8mm, and a T30 Torx. My lovely assistant can follow me over here. You're going to notice that this drive shaft is connected by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts up here. So there are 4 of those T30 Torx right up there. So this is your front diff. And to loosen these, you're going to need a wrench and a T30 Torx. So I have this over here. So what you're going to want to do is take this, put it into the cross member here, get it on there. There we go. And then take the wrench and put it in between there so you can hold that from rotating. And you're really going to have to. There you go. Break them loose.
So in this particular vehicle, the front drive shaft was a little stuck after unbolting it, and you might find that on a lot of vehicles. I ended up using a hammer and a pry bar to kind of knock it loose, and you'll see that knock loose in just about a second. After you knock that loose, you kind of got to finagle it over the front cross member. It'll come out, but it takes a bit of finagling. Here I'm removing the clips. There are these little clips that go in and secure the U-joint in. Best way to get rid of those is a hammer and a flathead screwdriver. Right here I'm using a socket and my shop press to press out the U-joint. This is the best way to do this, frankly. It's harder to get it done with a hammer and a socket, and you'll also risk damaging the U-joint if you're pressing the new one in. Take your time here. Pressing these out takes time, especially if they're kind of seized in place and rusty.
There we go. No wonder it's not coming right off. It's not doing well. This U-joint is what I would call clapped. Capital C.
No.
All right, this is the drive shaft. We have our new U-joint. Now, what you're gonna want to do is, if you can see there's a little bit of rust and corrosion in there, and I just have some sandpaper, I'm just gonna lightly clean that up. Okay, another thing you want to do is get a pick or something small so you can get in here to these channels and pick out any corrosion that might be present. You're going to want to get a good seal. Alright, so this is our new U-joint here, and here's our drive shaft. So the way these work is you pull these little caps off, and be careful because they got a bunch of little needle bearings inside them, right? And make sure this one is a grease fitting, so make sure the grease fitting is at an angle where you can get it while it's on the car. It's much easier to do that way. This particular U-joint is not size dependent. They're all these little caps are the same size, but some are different sizes. So you're going to want to check on that depending on your manufacturer, your make, your model. But on this particular application here, you take this, you undo it, take that, take it off, and this slides right in, just like that. Sits right there. Can you see that? Sits right there. Now, then you have to put the caps back on. So you slide the caps back on like that, and they press into place. So I just slid that cap back on, and now I'm going to press it into place with this press here. So make sure you have a socket that is the right size for the cap. This one fits very nicely. It needs to fit on the inside of here. So as you can see, it's slowly going in here. And you don't want to add that much pressure. You want this to go on nice and easy. And if you start to get too much resistance, back off, take a look. It might be at an angle, might be cocked a little different. So get yourself a pair of needle nose pliers, and you're gonna want to come up and see this nice and close. You squeeze the C-clip like this, and be careful, it's under a lot of tension, and push in. And so as you can see, we got it in there, but it's not quite seated. So what I like to do is, you should really use like a screwdriver or a pick or something and push it into its groove. You hear that snap? That means it's in. We can see the groove. This thing's in pretty good. So yet again, we take our clip, we put it in. Make sure it's pushed all the way in. You'll hear a nice, satisfying click. And I actually believe this needs to go down just a smidgen. So put this right on top of there. And push down just a little more. And as soon as I released, I heard a click. And a good way to check is to make sure that's in that groove. So take your pliers and kind of shove it in. Yeah. So remember all that play we had before? There should be no play. No knocking, no nothing. All right, so we're back out at the garage. We're about to get the drive shaft with a brand new U-joint back in there. Before we do that though, we're definitely gonna wanna grease it. It's a lot easier to grease it when it's out of the car than when it's in the car. So I have a grease gun right here. And like that until it clicks. And then start pumping. Oh, see that? Like that. That's plenty of grease right there. So as soon as there's some hydraulic pressure pushing this out, as you can see, yep, perfect. So we got our U-joint nice and full of grease, because there's definitely some pressure there pushing it out.
What you'll see me doing here is actually taking some sandpaper and cleaning off the yoke on the front of the front differential. This needs to be done to make sure that the U-joint sits in there nicely.
We're taking the drive shaft, we are bringing it back over to the differential, and we're going to snake it back in here. Let's see if I can remember how to get it back in here. It was quite the ordeal getting it out.
Yes, you can put that part in through there, remember? No, yeah, so you gotta put that part up there first.
That's why you have a cameraman or woman, everyone, so they can tell you how to put the thing back together. And yet again, watch those caps, because those are delicate. There we go. These little tabs on the side of the U-joint, each one should be there. And I'm actually gonna use the camera to verify this side, if I can.
So what I'm doing here is I'm tightening down the caps on the front yoke to secure that U-joint in place onto the front differential. Now these are Torx bits. You're gonna want to tighten these down evenly and try not to use too much force, because Torx bits, when they get rusty, they strip out pretty easy. What I'm doing is I'm holding the drive shaft in place and torquing down with my hand. You might want to use that wrench method I showed earlier.
So I tightened all these down by hand. I want to give them a little hit with the impact just to make sure they're not going anywhere. Obviously don't go too overboard on this. These are very small bolts. All right. that is how you take your front drive shaft out, replace the U-joint, and put your front drive shaft back in on your beautiful 2010 Mercury Mountaineer. And this is the How Would You channel, and that's a wrap.